Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful Metaverse, and more particularly from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. Welcome. And as you know, um, whatever platform you may be happening to watch this on, if you're watching live, you can type your questions or comments, and they will appear here in my chat room. And I want to say good morning to Fox Fur Witch. It's good to see you. And today is our weekly roundup of stories, and we do have a couple of stories for you. And the first one is happening basically now. Um the Olympics are happening in Paris this year, and earlier today there was basically a terrorist attack on the city, and that is going to be my first story. And it's being described as an arson attack on the rail system, just hours before the opening of the Olympics. And it was reported this morning, and it has disrupted the rail service in much of the country. Up to 800,000 passengers um, are not able to use the rail system they'd normally be using uh, to to reach Paris after the high-speed rail services to the capital were disrupted this way. And the chief executive of France's rail operator, which is called SNCF, has described this as the French are under attack. And apparently it was a series of fires, obviously set in many places, therefore obviously coordinated, that has caused the disruption in this service. It's been described as a premeditated, calculated, and coordinated attack, which obviously it must be. And they're vowing to find the people who are responsible. Um, and I'm sure they probably will. So far, of course, they don't really know who's responsible, at least as of the last that I saw. But um, on Wednesday, a 40-year-old Russian man was arrested for being involved in a plan to sabotage the Olympic Games. And although they're not saying that this wider attack might be linked to Russia, this is the one connection that has been mentioned. And, it is an interesting comment on where we are. And I want to say hello to all the people entering the chat room. Mary Cavalcante, it's good to see you. Christine Higginbotham, it's good to see you. And Mary says, damn, I had no idea. I was too busy studying. I imagine a lot of us had not already noticed this because, of course, it's on the other side of the planet from most of our audience, and the news is only getting out. But it's a comment on where we're at in the world. For weeks now, I've been talking about the political fights that we're facing. And I usually describe this as a fight between Christian dominionism or Christian nationalism and secular society. But I don't see this as being any kind of variation in that because, the Russian polity is a Christian nationalist polity. They have adopted that point of view. And they themselves portray themselves as being in a war on the part of the Christian religion, meaning the Orthodox Christian religion, against secular society. And, as we watch a different branch of Christianity taking similar points of view in this country, we need to watch where this leads. It's only leading to one place, and that's either some sort of miraculous resolution or violence. And hello to Arlene in the chat room. And here we see a perfect example of the kind of violence it can lead to. Now, if you're my age, this is not a new experience for you, though you may have forgotten. I often see people post about the years of my childhood as some kind of long ago paradise when there were no problems in the world. Hello to Renee in the chat room. But they were children. They don't remember. I do. We had this kind of terrorism going on here in this country at that time, not as well planned as this. But I can remember, even in my little town of Danville, where I grew up and where I live now, there was fear on occasion of going to like the major shopping malls for fear someone might have planted a bomb because it had become that common. There was constant talk in the opposite direction of revolution. There was considerable violence. So anyone who thinks that we cannot get there has no memory. If you remember back to the 1930s, we were in very much the same situation in the late 20s even. We need to remember that peace is not something that just automatically exists. We have to watch it and maintain it. And when we see people making statements like, I believe it was someone from the Heritage Foundation, in fact, who said the next American Revolution is underway and will be bloodless if it's allowed to be, we need to understand they're planning on blood. And we need to be mindful of that. And if we can possibly head it off, of course we should. And if we can't, we need to have plans for how we're going to survive it. You know, I hate to come back constantly to that message, but it is the message of most importance, I think, to our people at this time. And, you know, as they always do, they want to fight over this tradition is better than that tradition. This liturgical issue is better than that liturgical issue, wasting their energy in every direction when there are real issues that need their attention. And we'll see if they're capable of facing it. My confidence is not high, but I'm hoping that at least we, the people who follow me and respect my opinion, at least we can have some practical plans, which I fear are largely going to be based on a feudal future, that we're going to have to rely on being in certain areas where our rights will remain, because I don't think we can expect to see them maintained over the country. But we'll see what happens. There are still things that can change that. They're just, at this point, no longer something easily done. A few years ago, it would have been easy to guarantee those things. Now it's going to take a very great effort. And I don't know if society is going to make the effort. But yes, the terrorist attack on France is my primary story for this week. The other story, obviously, is President Biden choosing not to run for re-election. And his vice president, Kamala Harris, stepping into that role. And, you know, as a religious leader, I have no comments to make regarding a particular political party or political candidate. I'm no longer in charge of a 501c3, but I'm still involved in several of them. And, you know, that is the rule. I've seen a lot of people posting about Project 2025 as violating that rule. It, in fact, does not. We know that its spirit does, but it never crosses the line. And I'm not going to cross that line either by making any partisan type of comments, but I am going to say that I think that the president made the right choice, considering all the things happening, both in the country and in his own life. Would he have been able to serve a second term? I don't know. I don't know what his health is really like. But would he have been elected? It was going to be a long shot. And I think that he made the nobler decision by not pursuing it. Um, and I say this as a man um, who stepped down from a high position, even if only partly, a little over a year ago for much the same reason. I resigned the chancellorship of the Karelian tradition because my health would not permit me at that time to continue it. And although the outcome of that proved to be a bit chaotic for a short time, I still think it was the right thing to do because my health at that time really was quite bad. In a lot of ways now, it has recovered. Um, but at that time, one doesn't know. You could say the same thing for President Biden. He could be having momentary problems that he will recover from, or he might not. Um, but, in talking about leadership, sometimes you have to consider not just what you want, but what seems best for the situation. And sometimes it will take a circuitous route to get to the best outcome. But still, you cannot always make the choice that flatters your ego or meets your emotional needs. You have to make the choice that is best for the people you're working with. And Mary Cavalcante says, and I always respect your decision. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. So I basically want to say that I think that President Biden made the right decision here, and for the right reasons that he has announced, that he felt it was best for the upcoming election. Not necessarily that he couldn't have done it, not necessarily that he is in imminently bad shape. And in fact, he is still the president of the country. But, at the age that he is, by the time he finished a second term, he would have been very, very elderly. And yes, some people can be in very good shape at that age. Olivia Robertson, a woman for whom I have the highest admiration and had the honor to consider a friend, one of the co-founders of the Fellowship of ISIS, right up into her 90s. Her mid-90s, she was still traveling the world, had the energy and the mind of someone half her age or younger. It certainly does happen. However, it also happens that much younger people can deal with severe health setbacks that they really should take into account. So with that, today I have a guest, and we are going to talk about a number of issues, including our upcoming whatnot. Hi, Ed.
Yeah, how you doing? This is my
I
lovely
am
room
good.
in Chicago.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's start with let me offer this. Well, this Sunday I'm gonna start a new show with Mary Hawk and others called This Week in Prophecy. Yeah, I know there's other shows by the same name, and we'll find maybe a catchier name, but this week we're gonna start talking about the idea of prophecy. Because no matter what else people think, Project 2025, a lot of this is seeped into a very simple idea. And that is the world is going to end at some point by supernatural means. And we're going to have some sort of magnificent war that was already underway, and that we will have to surrender to God and Christ, and the government's going to have to.
Oh, and I'm back. Mary says, hello, Ed. And I'm assuming Ed will be back with us in a moment.
Oh,
There
I
we
don't know what
are.
happened there. We've been having this lately, haven't we?
We have, in several of our recent phone calls,
And when I
we've
was
had
saying
difficulty with the signal.
so this week, Sunday, 9 p.m. every Sunday was going to be This Week in Prophecy. I'm going to take you through it. And what do I know about prophecy? I am a I know more about prophecy than I do magic, believe it or not. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Very good. And that will be you and Reverend Mary Hawk, I believe.
And others, I think, too. But yeah, Mary Hawk and I are going to do it because we came from basically prophetic backgrounds. I mean, people forget I was raised in the Dominionist Church,
Mm-hmm.
and it's deeply prophetic. And Armageddon is a war crime.
And
Just
you're
let
you're
people,
going to be looking at prophecy from from the terms of what it means to the Christian Dominionist crowd.
Sure, I'm going to talk about that, Reverend, Revelation 3:13, but I'm also going to speak about Nostradamus.
Hmm.
I think we're going to see a round of Nostradamus coming in. Shipton,
Hmm.
Edgar Casey,
Okay,
um,
so across the board.
and my own. I mean, people don't realize I wrote a hundred predictions back in 1993 called Principal Prophetica, the Age of the Doomsday Generation.
And some of those have been remarkably accurate.
Oh yeah, and it's the idea that we're doomsday prophets. Right now, we're in the age of doomsday, and I want to talk about Dune and the idea of Dune has gotten to be such a powerful thing, and they're going to do the next movie, which is highly about prophecy and what happens with perfect prophetic, insights. So prophecy, the idea of prediction, is at the center of our society.
Mm.
It also is, weather reports and AIs. I mean, what are we going to do when AI start doing tarot?
Yeah, we're definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you're right. The idea of predicting the future in one way or another runs all through our society.
Oh, sure. Whether it be stock market, weather, politics. I mean, there are people who go on news every day to tell you what the politics are going to do next.
Oh, that's true. And there are politicians who make up their positions based entirely on the polls.
And
Uh,
but underneath all of it is our cultural paradigm of being a disposable society.
mhm,
Of this world meaning has no meaning because it's disposable,
mhm.
and that's revelations right now. That's prophecy right now,
But,
and it's about to
that's a
get.
very important point because throughout our lifetime, everything from the government on down has been promoting the idea of of a disposable society of
Mhm.
buying things in plastic containers you just throw away instead of recycling, um, using one-time paper plates, etc., with no real regard for what was going to happen to those things afterwards. It's been a huge focal point on all sides that we lived in a disposable society until we came to the point that we ran out of places to dispose it.
Oh, we still have plenty of space. Trust me, I was in the business. We have plenty of places to dump trash. Yeah, I mean, we don't. If we don't give a damn, who cares? I mean, I always hear the water companies. What is their number one product? Plastic bottles, not water.
Mm-hmm.
But inside of that, it's also decisions being made.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, if we see the Christian nationalists win or lose, they're going to go on to the next phase. So we're going to talk about that prophecy and a lot of fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
But the real thing that we need to take care of is how to have a more brighter future, and that's Gaia Thrift.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about elder care. We've talked a lot about the energy of needing to help our elders, to help our own community. And one of the things that we discovered, because after we've been talking about it the last 4 or 5 years and then went through the crisis of it, is that revenue, income. We need to have a fundraising mechanism that
Mm-hmm.
allows us to give to elders, to be able to afford some of the things in there. And all at the same time, we're about to have a revolution, another revolution. You saw me on TikTok, you've seen me on Facebook, you've seen me all along. Radio, I've been really cutting edge. And that is live stream sales, e-commerce
Yes.
at live stream. And we're going to do a test auction at 1 o'clock here. Let me see if I can put the and there puts the link to it. If you go on to Gaia Thrift, the page, you'll see that there's one for $15 free. There's a lot of it. But right now, wow, I left my closet door open. See, I'm not hiding anything in my closet. Uh, and so that we're going to continue on this passageway. But I do think Gaia Thrift is the idea of it. People are asking, isn't that a store down in Danville? Well, no, it's a studio down in Danville. I need people to understand we'll have some store hours, but we're
Mm-hmm.
really see that the world's about to change hard again. And Whatnot is the one place that we're going to take our thing, whatnot.com. And so I'm hoping that helps out. We're going to do a test at 1 o'clock. But the big show is next week, next Wednesday. We're going to do the big show from Danville, from our new studio. Don's been working really hard on it. And we're going to be going into e-commerce and selling online because we need it. Because no matter what else we can do, we have to raise a certain amount of revenue. We live in a capitalistic society. And while I'd love it to be, and there's ways that we can turn it into a more sharing society, you know, shared resources, food pantries, we talk about that, food cooperatives, we talk about that, shared tool libraries. There's a lot of things we can do to make it work better for us. We can, but it does take a source of income.
Very cool. And we're going to be doing that at 1 at whatnot.com. And you put the link into the chat room, which means it should be appearing on most of the platforms that people will be watching this on.
And if you just go to Gaia Thrift Central on Facebook, you'll see there's a link for a $15. If you sign up through that, you'll get $15 of free money. And if you're a seller, join as a seller too. Right now is the early time. Just because we're selling on it doesn't mean you shouldn't be selling on it. This idea of what's good for me is not good for you. I don't believe in competition that way. We need as many of our sellers to jump onto these systems, even if this is just a learning experience. What if Whatnot? I've heard all the time. Well, what if Whatnot's not the next TikTok? So what?
Well, that's true.
But we do know. That's like saying, "Wow, MySpace, it'll last forever." No, it didn't. But what we learned about MySpace transferred to Facebook, which we learned on Friendsters transferred there. What we did in Vine transferred to YouTube. Now we use different tools because the tools are evolving. But learning how to use this stuff and being new on the air and to be able to sell directly to people, this idea of direct commerce to carry out middlemen. Some people see it very dehumanizing, but other time, the gatekeeping of it is gone.
Yes, indeed.
No, I'm looking at for Gaia Thrift. What we are looking for is, and it's you can donate it. It's a not-for-profit on its way to 501c3. And for full disclosure, there is some discussion, some serious discussion, maybe turning into a B Corp, which is a benefits corp next year. But we have to have a full year of working on it. That's legalism.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. And we're looking for all sorts of things, anything that you want. One of the things we learned in the last year, Don painfully, he gave up his labyrinthian pile of materials to the world.
Oh, yes.
And one thing we realized is that a lot of elders don't know how to sell their items. We were very fortunate that we had been in e-commerce and we knew what we did. And we moved some $7,000 of material in under 60 days.
Yes.
And used every cent of it to move. Anyone who knows the moves, that knows that was just a very tiny amount of money to move.
Yeah.
And you reduce our cost of having to move it. But I think that a lot of elders are holding a lot of value in things that they just put on the curbside, or their family takes it and drops it off away. How much goodwill and other things, and not realizing there's some real value in their estates.
I think that's a very important point because so often, so many of these people, particularly their libraries and their altar equipment and their religious artwork, are collections they've worked on for a lifetime. And when they die, what happens to it? A few friends may get a few pieces. Mostly it's going to end up either being thrown out or donated somewhere. And going out of our community,
right?
So if we can find ways to help keep those riches within our community, and one of the things we often mentioned is the Temple of Sacred Stones in Chicago that had a wonderful collection of artwork, but that, as far as I know, is no longer in our community. Certainly not in the public community.
No.
When the high priestess died, all of that was simply gone. And that's usually what happens when members of the high priesthood die. We talk about selling off my library and some of my mother's jewelry collection. But if I had simply died, I don't know that it wouldn't have simply been thrown out. At least as it is, a number of people within the community got these pieces. people for whom, in most cases, they actually still have meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the different leaders of the community, the idea that they're just going to give their whole library to a friend, usually it's too big to do that. It's going to be little pieces that survive, if anything. And if we want to keep the resources that our people have spent lifetimes developing within the community, we need to have methods to do it.
And so we have three things we're dealing with in that moment of Gaia Thrift. One, how do we reach a big enough audience of people who are actually interested in this material? And while we'll have a shop in downtown Danville, which is a nice, safe place, it gives us all the services we need, hopefully tapping into it. There's a center down the street for incubator. We can incubate this types of businesses, not just for Gaia Thrift, but for others too, just be able to sell and make money. If we don't have an income, we can't get a house. We can't get medical services. We can't get, because we're a capitalistic society.
Mm-hmm.
And while there are insurances and things like that, it all takes a certain amount of revenue, cash flow. It's not even just cash. You can have a pile of cash there and get rejected, but they want to see, oh, you can pay over revenue. So Gaia Thrift in that aspect is about turning unwanted things or needed things into more valuable things. Two, these elders who are now in that stage, we can sell stuff for them and split those profits. I mean, make those profits go to them.
Mm-hmm.
We can do this for any community or just your groups and things like that. So we're going to be teaching people how to raise more money for their community through Gaia Thrift, and as well as creating jobs. I mean, that's important. And the third thing is that if we have these libraries built from new, I mean, we can bulk buy. There's a lot of things we can do to help and to dealing with books and get those book libraries built on a local level. There, more books survive, more rare books survive, not because of the big libraries, but because of small libraries people found in their attics and their spaces. The books that people love that survive, and a tremendous amount of books never survive. That's the whole reason why we collect books, is that so few books actually survive.
Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm. In our community, we have a lot of books, and a lot of magazines, and a lot of pamphlets. We're only a couple of hundred. We're produced a couple of thousand. We're produced at most.
At most.
Mm-hmm.
Often far less.
Yeah. So holding that into private libraries is very important. This idea of big public libraries is good, but we don't need too many of them. But keeping private libraries, if they institute certain types of censorship or certain that, it's going to take a long time before they pry into the house. There's nothing fast about this. So they think the dominionist movement has its moments of speed up. We're in the middle of one of those. But they are used to losing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a big thing about it. So libraries in your home is very important, keeping the treasures in our home. But the other side of this, let me offer the real side of it. You ever heard of American folk art? It's a big movement from the 1800s and the early 1900s of people who made stuff just at home. And today, that stuff, if it's in your family, is worth real money now, because there's a certain aspect of it. As we get farther and farther away from somebody, that made a very small mark. Somebody may have paid $10 for that little dollhouse that may sell for $50,000 now because it's so beautiful, so intricate. So too, we are in the pagan folk art area. The things that we've made over the last 50 years, right, are going to become more and more valuable because there's so few of them. Rihanna's wands, what is there? There might be 200 of them in the world.
Yeah.
Those crystal craze and that. Staves people made, there maybe you had like 8 or 9 put out total. I mean, maybe a couple of thousand, maybe a couple of tens of thousands. I'm just saying, as we go farther and farther and we see more and more people want metaphysical stuff, there's more value in it. And Gaia Thrift wants to preserve that generational wealth and put money in people's hands, and also allow people to have things that are going to be worth more. A first edition Ray Buckland used to go, when I was starting out, I could pick one up for $25. I wouldn't let one go for less than $250 now.
Yeah.
And that value is only going to increase generationally. And that's another thing that we can do well. We can preserve. And so that's just one reason for Gaia Thrift. It may seem like we're giving away books and doing all that, but there's some part of us hopes that it will last into the years to come, and that we can provide real relevance to our community by providing real value, putting dollars in our pockets today, providing a funding source for this idea of elder care and other things in Danville, building a local community in Danville that takes care of its own. And hopefully we can bring people in. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could bring people in for healing weekends? But we
Hmm.
need space to do that. We would love to do that. Hmm? Have a doctor
Absolutely.
see you, have a healing, Reiki, and have a doctor see you and everything else. And then you go back home to your place. And that being not a cost, but something that you could do. All of this is possible by selling thrift, by us going through these ideas. And so I hope that you will join us.
Yes, indeed. Please join us today at 1. You can find that link in various places, but it's whatnot.com under Gaia Thrift, Gaia Thrift Central,
Yeah, Gaia Thrift Central.
Gaia Thrift Central at whatnot.com. And, if you enjoy my program, join us for this and
Hmm.
see what we're doing next. So thank you, Ed, and thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
I hope you have enjoyed the program. And with that, I'm going to close with our prayer, as we always do, and I will see you again on Monday. And also, this weekend, we'll be doing the Pagan World News, and please join us for that. And that will be on Sunday in the afternoon here on Corellian TV and various other formats. So now let us have our prayer. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to help us to have our eyes open to all of the good that is around us, and also to those things that pose dangers to our future, and help us to find good ways to combat those dangers and to put them behind us. Help us to build the best possible future through all of our actions. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and thanks. Knowing you're always with us, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And may you be blessed now and always, and I will see